this year, there's a lot of people making resolutions about money, like where they can maybe find some. You know, pundits always use the same metaphor when they're describing an unstable economy. They call it a roller coaster. I beg to differ. Roller coasters are fun. Worst case scenario, riding one of those is you lose your lunch, not your house. Even the experts don't know what's going on. I ran into my financial advisor at Chapters. He was buying a copy of Farming for Dummies.
That's good.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, the world's in such a mess, you know. Europe on $5 a day used to be a guide for backpackers, you know, not a guide for Portuguese bankers. So it's, but, you know, someone sneezes on the bonds desk in Singapore, someone up in Prince George's and buying their snowmobile.
It's true.
Yeah.
And we gasp here when Greece goes broke. But we have no idea really how it affects us, except all of our financial people tell us that affects you. You should be worried about what's going on in Portugal and Greece and Europe. And
it's funny, though, you mentioned it on stage, and it's just not on their agenda.
What is on people on people's agenda
right
today?
Now? It's hockey.
Right now, hockey, of course, except here.
Yeah, well,
we had a bit of a disaster.
I live in Toronto. I mean, you know. Yeah,
true.
Believing in the Leafs is like believing in the virgin birth. You know, it's a stretch, but it's impolite to the faithful to say otherwise.
Remember when they used to wear fur coats, mink coats, to see the Toronto Maple Leafs play? You weren't born. Used to
I never.
No, before you were born.
Weren't a lot of mink coats on the Cold Town Road.
Probably not, but the matrons of Rosedale. You know, they'd come all geared up in their coats and all of that.
Yeah, it's disappointing that the Canadian teams are in NFL bad for Vancouver and Ottawa. And but it's a bloodbath, man. It's like it's like UFC now, and you know, and there's Batman sitting in the audience like a Caesar at the Coliseum, and but the size of these guys, you know, Chara plays for Boston, is 7'2" on a pair of hockey skates. That's not a hockey player. That's a villain in a Bond movie.
No kidding, 7'2". He's 7'2".
You have one of those cartilaginous, steroid-stoked mouth breathers tee you up at the blue line, and you'll be leaking from the ears till the Leafs win the cup.
You've got that right, and that could be a long, well, that we don't know.
Come on.
But it's
Nova
true.
Scotia's going to be reattached to the Horn of Africa again before the Leafs are parading that Stanley Cup up Bay Street. Are you kidding?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm
a Jays fan. Brett
How's
Lawrie,
the baseball team doing?
Oh, fantastic. Brett Lawrie got that home run last night.
Okay.
He's phenomenal.
So sports,
from Langley. Yeah,
sports.
I go. I've got tickets to the Jays. I go splits on a pack of tickets, and so I got about 24 games this season. And luckily, they're on the road, I think, or were they in Toronto last night? I forget. Anyway, I'm not going to miss as many games as I thought because I'm on the road, but I try to get to see them. Yeah, they're an exciting team, and they've built a really, really great roster. And Santos, the reliever, is great, and Romero, of course, the pitcher.
Sure.
Yeah. No, I follow baseball.
Okay.
Yeah, it's great. Well, why not? You know, what am I going to do? You know, Dad.
You're on the road. You're in the hotel with a bad shag rug. Well, I don't know. Maybe you're staying in a fancy hotel, but most people I know who tour, they're in a hotel, an orange shag rug still. Don't know why. Don't know why the agent put them there.
Fanny, you have no idea some of the mom and pop shagging shacks I've stayed in across the great frontier. I mean, I was staying, the first tour I put together, I was in a motel Norman Bates wouldn't run, right? And the smoke alarm was a dead canary in the cage. And I don't know if I can say this, but what the heck, it's almost the end of the thing. I remember they had some complimentary coffee. And I made a pot of complimentary coffee, and I had a taste, and I remember thinking, dear God, if this coffee's a compliment, my wake-up call must be a kick in the nuts.
And it wasn't, because you're still here and all that.
But you got to put your time in. There's a hotel in Belleville, Ontario, that's got they're all themed rooms,
right?
And there's a stripper's pole in one of the bedrooms.
Really?
There's
Belleville.
There's a stripper's pole. There's a place up in.
Maybe it's a fire pole.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. No firefighters at the Belleville.
No. There's a place up in Prince Albert that's royal themed rooms.
Right.
And there's a couch there. It's like the royal room, so it's all plush blue with jester tassels on the top of the bed, and yeah, you got to give that.
Well, I stayed in I think it was the Cinderella in Edmonton.
The Cinderella
Remember they
room?
had the Cinderella room in the Roy Rogers room? You know, at the Edmonton Mall.
I did not know that. I've never stayed at the Edmonton Mall.
You have to go where they had the, it's not in the mall, but it's close to there. You play Edmonton.
Yeah, I do. I stay downtown. The West Edmonton Mall is way, way out there.
Okay, I'm sure it's around there because I've stayed there, and there's a Roy Rogers room, and there's a Cinderella room, and they're all themed. You can do this.
The Roy Rogers room.
Why not?
Get on trigger.
Get on trigger. Okay,
come on, honey. I dropped big bucks for this room. You better get on trigger.
Where's Buttermilk? That lovely horse. He stuffed Trigger, you know.
He did stuff Trigger.
We shouldn't go there. We'll get back.
Dale Evans' horse was Buttermilk.
Yes. Yeah.
That's some good. Only a gal from Montana would know that.
Happy trails to you until we meet again.
I got to play Alberta in the fall, man.
Are there things you can make jokes of in Alberta that?
Well, I don't know. Now that there's a wingnut white rose party came pretty close. I mean, only in Alberta would the opposition to a conservative party be another conservative party.
The Wild Rose.
Well, you know, I think they're getting their political policies from the Book of Zebediah, aren't they?
I don't know.
Chuck the homos in a lake of fire. What the hell are you talking about, you
lived
tool?
in Alberta too. It feels like Montana too.
But it's
the rednecks, the good old boys.
I think that's southern Alberta. The urban centers. I mean, the mayor of Edmonton is an enlightened cat,
and the mayor of Calgary.
And the mayor of Calgary. So I think it was the urban centers. Much like with the Harper government, it's the urban centers that are keeping these cats, you know, in check, really. And not to denigrate anybody who lives in a rural community by any stretch, but I think that sort of deference for the absolute patriarchal hand of authority is important there, right?
Yes.
It's sort of the Old Testament kind of politician. And I mean, you know, you hold the door.
Bastion of free thought, or not.
Well, you hold the door in Lethbridge for a family, and you know, 11 girls in bonnets and calico dresses walk out. So it's a different world.
Witness or two.
It's a different world.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But what a sense you have of this country.
Well, I've been very fortunate, you know, to string my trap line, if you'll pardon the metaphor, from Corner Brook to Courtney Comox.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, and I've had the opportunity to, in a strange way, it's kind of a contradiction, to kind of unite the country for the time I'm on stage by talking about our differences. So it's an unusual discovery, but you know, that's why it's important for me to continue to tour, because just because some tough love patriarchs have their key to the government store doesn't mean that you know, me and my tribe of comedians have to put our brain on the back burner. And it's not our job to ride in the apple cart, it's our job to tip it over. So,
however, as you know, and I think you believe, that humor, like music, is unifying. It's
absolutely.
Globally unifying.
Yep.
It unifies the country, can bring the country together, maybe.
Well, I hope so.
I hope we have a few regions that may not agree.
Well, you know, I don't want to, you know, paint all these regions with the same brush either, because there's something exciting about, you know, as tough as it can be, playing Fort McMurray on a Saturday night, because Fort McMurray on a Saturday night makes an episode of Deadwood look like church supper at the Waltons. I mean, it's a window on another world, you know, and what has always appealed to me in my travels is finding how people live and trying to discover what it is that makes a region tick, the good and the bad. And for the 90 minutes I'm on stage to the 2 hours I'm on stage, you line the planets up and get everybody on the same page.
Well, and last time you were here, I think we talked about great characters, the characters you grew up with in the Annapolis Valley, and the characters I grew up with at the bar in Montana. Are we still making great characters? I mean, characters.
That's a really good question, because my dad's buddies were, you know, cut from the colors of the tapestry of the Canadian Legion, you know? You know, squat little purple-faced crew-cut guys with pot bellies that hadn't seen their pecker since they were in the baby carriage, right? Ronnie, how you doing, Ronnie? Come here, right? And playing crib at the table, and I admired them, you know, and they were people who spoke their mind, and they would always surprise you too with some, you know, enlightened perspective from their travels. And you know, I had cousins in the Merchant Marine. And but the people that you meet, whether it was in the Annapolis Valley in my days at university, or the people I remember now as almost, you know, shadows of a day gone by. I wonder if we're making, see, it's difficult today to create, create's the wrong word, but it's difficult to be an authentic character like that because somebody's always telling you not to.
I understand. I had a granddad, and he had a Colt 45 strapped to the steering column on his car in the Pontiac. And my mother would say...
Strapped to the steering column?
Yep. He was the sheriff. And sometimes he wasn't the sheriff, but he always had the gun. And my mother would say, your granddad shot the pistol off in downtown last night. I'd say, what? That's not good, Mom. She said, no, Emily, my God-fearing grandmother, is mad. Madder than a hatter. Yeah, wow. Lordy B, she'd say.
Wow.
Okay.
Montana, what a day, hey?
Nice to see you.
Thank you, Fanny.
And you'll be performing all over British Columbia, beautiful British Columbia. 2 nights Centennial Theatre, that's Friday, Saturday, and then to Kelowna.
Yes.
Until how long?
I wrap it up in your province, your provincial
13th.
capital, May 13th in Victoria, at the lovely Royal Theatre, and I'm just delighted to be traveling this province of polarities where you're either chained to a tree or chomping it down. You got to love it.
You got to love it. We'll see you at the Centennial Theatre.
Thanks for having me.
Bye. Ron James.